Confronting my stepsister for stealing brought her drunk, aggressive BF to my house. I filmed it all, then called the police. My stepsister broke into my home, lived out her fantasy life, and then sent her drunk boyfriend to threaten me. But this time, I refused to be the bigger person. What happened next not only ripped my family apart, but showed me who truly had my back when I needed it most. I never thought I'd be telling this story, especially not publicly. But the last couple of weeks have shattered everything I thought I knew about my own family, and I desperately need to get it all out. I need to know if I handled this right, or if I somehow became the villain in my own life. Let me start from the beginning. When I was 13, my mom married David. David already had a daughter, Emily, who's now 27. For years, Emily and I were fine. Not best friends, but we got along. But as we hit our teens, everything changed. Emily developed this intense, almost obsessive competitive streak. If I got something, she needed something better. If I accomplished anything, she'd either downplay it or claim she could have done it too if she'd wanted. And our parents, they always enabled it. Their mantra was keep the peace and be the bigger person, a message that conveniently was always directed at me. I learned to gray rock before I even knew there was a name for it. I worked so hard, put myself through school, and got my degree in radiologic technology. For 5 years, I poured everything into my career, eventually becoming a lead tech at a huge city hospital. And last year, all that hard work, all that saving finally paid off. I bought my first home, a beautiful 3-bedroom townhouse with 2.5 baths, a tiny backyard, and importantly a hot tub the previous owners left behind. I've spent the past year making it my own. Fresh paint, new furniture, a garden I'm cultivating. Every corner of this place represents years of self-discipline and sacrifice. Emily, on the other hand, has bounced between jobs, apartments, and relationships. She lives with our parents and works part-time at a boutique. I'm not saying this to be unkind. Honestly, I don't care how she chooses to live her life. What does concern me is what she's been doing with mine. About 2 weeks ago, I came home after a brutal 10-hour shift, and things just fell off. Nothing major at first. A glass in the sink I didn't remember using. A throw blanket on the sofa moved from where I'd left it. I chalked it up to exhaustion. Then the hot tub lid was slightly ajar. Then it happened again and again. Food started vanishing from my fridge. A bottle of wine I'd been saving was half empty. My expensive shampoo and conditioner were disappearing way too fast. I genuinely started to think I was losing my mind. That's when Tom, my neighbor in his 50s, knocked on my door. Tom is the kind of neighbor everyone wishes they had. Retired from construction, he mostly keeps to himself, but he's basically the watchful guardian of our entire street. He waters my plants when I work late, and he has the most comprehensive security camera system I've ever seen. "Hey," he said, looking uncomfortable. I wasn't sure if I should say something, but I've noticed people coming and going from your place during the day when you're at work. Couldn't quite make them out, but figured you'd want to know. My stomach dropped. What do you mean, people? One young woman, one young man. Probably been 5 or 6 times over the past few weeks. Usually arrive around noon, leave around 6. I must have looked as terrified as I felt because Tom immediately offered to share his camera footage. That evening, in his living room, I watched 4 weeks of my life unfold in high definition. There was Emily, my stepsister, walking up to my front door with a key I'd never given her, letting herself in with a man I'd never seen before. A tall man, probably late 20s, with that arrogant swagger that comes from never being told no. They'd go in, and hours later they'd come out, sometimes with wet hair from the hot tub, sometimes carrying what looked like leftovers from my fridge. In one clip, they were laughing in my backyard, using my hot tub. In another, they left with the bottle of wine from my kitchen, the one I was saving for my birthday next month. But the last video clip, that was the worst. You could see them walking upstairs. My bedroom, my bed, my sanctuary. The next day I called in sick, the first time in 4 years. I went home to investigate, and once I knew what to look for, the proof was everywhere. My bed sheets, which I'd washed Sunday, were clearly slept in. A long blonde hair on my pillow that wasn't mine. A faint scent of a perfume I don't own in my bathroom. My luxurious body wash, a little treat I buy myself, was almost empty. I sat on my violated bed and sobbed for an hour. Then I got angry. After that I got strategic. First, the confrontation. I spent the next 4 days preparing. I immediately replaced my locks with smart locks I could monitor remotely. I installed my own security cameras inside and out. I copied Tom's footage and stored it in 4 different places. I meticulously documented everything. The missing food, the used amenities, the state of my bedroom. Then, I made a dinner reservation for my family. When I walked in, my mom beamed. "It's so nice to have everyone together." David nodded his approval. Emily was already there, scrolling through her phone, feigning disinterest. I waited until we were all seated and the idle chatter died down. Then I made my move. "Emily," I began, my voice calm but my insides churning. She looked up, startled that I was initiating conversation. "Who's your new boyfriend?" Something sparked in her eyes. "Jake. Why?" "Just curious. Have you told him much about yourself? Your job, your living situation, things like that?" The guarded look deepened. "Well, I suppose the usual." "So he knows you live here with Mom and David?" I asked, my voice still level as I gave a slow nod. "I mean, he knows I have family." "Quite fascinating," I continued, "because I've been having some trouble at my townhouse recently. Things going missing, things being moved." I was so confused until my neighbor showed me his videotape. Emily's face went white. At that moment, I pulled out my phone and placed it on the table. "I have hours of video showing you and Jake entering my home without permission." My parents looked between us, utterly confused. "For the past several weeks," I pressed on, basking in my hot tub, eating my food, drinking my wine and sleeping in my bed. "Wait just a moment," David started, but I cut him off. "I have not yet completed this." My gaze locked on Emily. "At this very moment, I require you to provide me with an explanation as to how you obtained a key to my home and why you considered any of this to be appropriate." Emily's face cycled through astonishment, terror, and then landed on a horribly defiant expression. "This is not a major concern at all. It's a visit from family. That is very typical." "No, Emily," I snapped, my calm facade cracking. "You did not come to see me. Without my knowledge, you broke into my house while I was at work and utilized it as if it were a vacation rental." "It wasn't me that broke in," she blurted out. "I had a key produced from my mother's copy several months ago when you had just moved in. It seemed to me that everything was in order. We form a family." I turned to my mother. "You made it possible for her to use my key?" Mom's face was crimson. For the purpose of delivering a housewarming present, she requested to borrow it. I did not deliver it. "You did not do that." I turned back to Emily. "What is going to take place is as follows. The truth is going to be revealed to Jake by you, that you have been lying to him and that this is my house, not yours, and that you have stolen it. Then you are going to compensate me for anything that you have taken and utilized without my permission. The list that I have is itemized." Emily actually chuckled. "To be honest, I laughed. That is rather theatrical of you. It's nothing more than some food and whatever else. Jake has no pressing need to be aware of anything. The events that take place between step-siblings are kept private among step-siblings." For the past several weeks, I pressed on, basking in my hot tub, eating my food, drinking my wine and sleeping in my bed. "Wait just a moment," David started, but I cut him off. "I have not yet completed this." My gaze locked on Emily. "At this very moment, I require you to provide me with an explanation as to how you obtained a key to my home and why you considered any of this to be appropriate." Emily's face cycled through astonishment, terror, and then landed on a horribly defiant expression. This is not a major concern at all. It's a visit from family. That is very typical. No, Emily, I snapped, my calm facade cracking. You did not come to see me. Without my knowledge, you broke into my house while I was at work and utilized it as if it were a vacation rental. It wasn't me that broke in, she blurted out. I had a key produced from my mother's copy several months ago, when you had just moved in. It seemed to me that everything was in order. We form a family. I turned to my mother. You made it possible for her to use my key? Mom's face was crimson. For the purpose of delivering a housewarming present, she requested to borrow it. I did not deliver it. You did not do that. I turned back to Emily. What is going to take place is as follows. The truth is going to be revealed to Jake by you, that you have been lying to him and that this is my house, not yours, and that you have stolen it. Then you are going to compensate me for anything that you have taken and utilized without my permission. The list that I have is itemized. Emily actually chuckled. To be honest, I laughed. That is rather theatrical of you. It's nothing more than some food and whatever else. Jake has no pressing need to be aware of anything. The events that take place between step-siblings are kept private among step-siblings. I couldn't get hold of Emily for the rest of the week. Not surprising. She's not one to take responsibility. As I was getting ready to file my police report, I got an unexpected visitor. I was home on a rare day off, doing laundry and trying not to worry about having to confront my parents again when my doorbell rang. Through my new security camera, I saw him, the man from Tom's film. Jake. I didn't open the door. Instead, I spoke through the intercom. Is it possible for me to assist you? Yes, you are able to provide an explanation for why you are attempting to create friction between my girlfriend and I. His tone was aggressive from the start. You have been circulating falsehoods, according to Emily, suggesting that she does not actually reside in this location. I have no idea how much harm you have caused, but you need to take a step back. A shiver ran down my spine. He still didn't know. Or Emily had spun a story where I was the antagonist. I am not spreading lies, I said carefully. This home is mine and I am the owner. My stepsister's name is Emily. On the other side of town, she resides with her parents. She has never called this place home. She was the one who took me on a tour of this location, he retorted, disbelief in his voice. She talked to me about the renovations she had done, including the installation of the hot tub. The hot tub was really erected by the previous owners, I explained. 1.5 years ago, I purchased this house. I am in possession of the deed that bears my name. Every single thing that Emily told you was a lie. There was a significant lull. Through the webcam, I watched Jake's face shift from fury to bewilderment. She had stated that you were envious in the end, he eventually said. Said you always tried to take her stuff because your mom liked her better. Classic Emily, I sighed. She is projecting so hard that she could work at a movie theater. In the event that you want evidence, I am able to present the deed to you promptly. I can also show you the surveillance tape of you and Emily entering my house while I was at work. I never granted her permission to be here, and I definitely never gave her permission to bring visitors. Another pause. Surveillance film. My neighbor has cameras, and I now have my own home security system as well. I have multiple recordings of you both trespassing on my property. Jake's face went through several complicated emotions. She said this was her place. She gave me a tour. I'm sorry you were lied to, I said, and I meant it. Whatever Emily had done, Jake appeared to be as much a victim of her deception as I was. But I need you to leave my land now. And I need you to realize that neither you nor Emily are allowed here again. What happened next took me off guard. Instead of leaving, Jake's face hardened again. No, see, I don't believe you, he shouted, his voice rising. Emily loves this place. While she was describing how proud she was of herself, she broke down in tears and showed me her bedroom. That is not the type of feeling that you can manufacture. In this situation, you are the one who is trying to take her home because you are a bitter and lonely person. He was already dialing. I am now contacting the cops. Kindly walk away. This is not over, he said, finally moving away from the door. It is going to be Emily who demonstrates that this belongs to her, and you are going to appear like the maniac that you are. I remained on the line with 911 until he drove away. They sent an officer to take my statement. I presented them with everything, the deed, the film, the paperwork of what had been taken. The officer showed compassion and advised that I consider getting a protective order if Jake showed up again. I had no idea I would need one. I had made a mistake. 8 days after that initial encounter, things got real. The next 5 days were a strange mix of anxious and peaceful. I went to work, came home, and monitored my cameras constantly. No Emily. No Jake. As the days passed, I started to hope that maybe the message had finally been received. Then, at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday evening, my doorbell rang. I had already gone to bed and was just drifting off when the sound jolted me awake. Instantly, I grabbed my phone and pulled up the security camera footage. Jake was on my porch. Even through the blurry night vision, I could tell he was swaying. His movements were uncoordinated. The signs of intoxication were obvious. He yelled, pounding on my door with his fist. Hey, I know you're in there. Open up. I need to talk to you. I was already dialing 911. You need to give me my girlfriend's key, he continued shouting. She said that you stole her key. That's theft. You stole from her, and now you're keeping her out of her own house. The 911 operator asked me to stay on the line. I gave them my address, explained the situation. A lone man outside was intoxicated and becoming more aggressive by the second. I know you're watching me. Jake screamed, apparently noticing the camera. You think you're so smart with your cameras and your lies. Emily told me everything. You're trying to steal her identity. You're trying to take her life. He kicked my door. The sound made me flinch, even though I was upstairs behind a locked bedroom door. Open this door right now, or I'm going to break it down. I swear to God The police arrived before he could finish that threat. I watched through my camera as 2 officers approached, saw Jake spin around to confront them, watched him take a swing at one of the officers and miss spectacularly. They had him on the ground and in handcuffs within 30 seconds. Once Jake was secured in the back of their cruiser, I came downstairs to speak with the officers. They took my statement, reviewed the camera footage from that night and the previous encounters, and strongly recommended I pursue a restraining order. Based on what we're seeing here, this isn't going to stop on its own. He is a threat. They arrested Jake for public intoxication, attempted assault on an officer, and criminal threatening. He spent the night in jail. The following morning, I was at the courthouse filing for a protective order. 2.5 weeks after the initial discovery, it all came to a head. The emergency protective order was granted immediately based on the evidence I presented. The judge reviewed the footage of Jake pounding on my door, his threats, and his arrest. The order prohibited him from coming within 450 feet of me or my property. But I didn't stop there. I filed a police report against Emily for trespassing, criminal trespass of the first degree, and theft. The stolen items, wine, food, toiletries, the cost of laundering my bedding, totaled over $350. The police took my report seriously. Tom provided his footage as evidence. A detective was assigned to the case. Then the calls started. First, my mother. How could you do this to your stepsister? She made a mistake. Jake's a bad influence on her, that's all. You're ruining her life over some groceries. I stayed calm. Mom, she broke into my home repeatedly, lied to her boyfriend about owning my house, and that boyfriend showed up drunk at midnight, threatening to break down my door. This isn't about groceries. But pressing charges, getting the police involved, that's so extreme. What would be extreme, I countered, is if I did nothing and Jake showed up again with more than just his fists. I'm protecting myself. I wish you could understand that. Then, David, you need to drop these charges. This is a family matter, not a legal matter. We can handle this ourselves. David, I said, my voice firm. Your daughter committed crimes against me repeatedly. Her boyfriend threatened me in my home. The time for handling this in the family was before she decided to use my house as her personal showcase. It is time for her to learn that actions have consequences. She violated my home, my trust, and my sense of safety. David hung up on me. I haven't heard from him since. The most surprising call came from an unknown number. It was Jake's mother. She claimed that she was just trying to impress Jake. She didn't intend to cause any harm. Intent does not change the impact, I stated. I wanted to apologize, she said, her voice tired and embarrassed. I raised that boy to be better than this. When I heard what happened, what really happened, I was mortified. He's had problems with alcohol, problems with anger, and I think Emily knew exactly what she was doing when she spun that story for him. She used his issues against all of you. I didn't know what to say. I hadn't expected this. I just wanted you to know that I'm not defending him, Jake's mother continued. He's my son, and I love him, but he was wrong. And Emily, what she did to him, convincing him of a fantasy like that, it's cruel to both of you. I thanked her for calling. She gave me her contact information in case I needed a witness statement for the restraining order hearing. The hearing took place 5 days ago. Jake appeared with a public defender, noticeably more sober and significantly more subdued than the man who screamed at my door. Emily was not present. I later learned her own newly acquired attorney had advised her to stay away. The judge granted a full restraining order for a period of 1 year. If Jake violates it, he'll face immediate arrest and additional charges. He's prohibited from contacting me, coming within 450 feet of my home or work, and possessing any weapons during the order. Before he left, Jake caught my eye across the courtroom. He didn't appear angry anymore. Rather, he appeared broken. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Resolution and aftermath. Present day. It's been 5 days since the restraining order was finalized. Here's where everything stands. Emily has been formally charged with criminal trespass and theft. Her arraignment is next week. Based on what her lawyer has communicated to the prosecutor, she's likely to plead guilty to reduced charges in exchange for restitution and probation. She'll have a criminal record now. My mother, who still calls despite everything, tells me Emily is devastated and can't understand why I'm doing this to her. I haven't spoken to her directly, and I don't plan to. Any contact now would have to go through lawyers anyway, which is fine by me. Jake is dealing with his own charges from the night of his arrest: public intoxication, disorderly conduct, and attempted assault on a law enforcement officer. I've spoken to Jake's mother twice more since that initial call, and she tells me Jake is finally getting help for his alcohol issues. He's in an outpatient program and has completely severed his relationship with Emily. He told his mom he doesn't know who Emily is anymore. His mother said the person he fell for doesn't exist. It was all built on lies. I find myself hoping he gets better, not for Emily's sake, but for his own. My parents have stopped calling. My mother sent one final text that read, "I hope you're happy now that you've destroyed this family." I didn't respond. There was nothing to say that would make her understand, and I've stopped trying to force understanding from people who are determined to misunderstand. David has been silent. I suspect he's wrestling with the reality that his golden child isn't quite so golden. Or maybe he's just written me off entirely. Either way, I've made my peace with it. As for me, I'm okay. Better than okay, actually. I changed all my locks again just in case. I keep my security cameras active and check them regularly, but less obsessively than before. I've been talking to a therapist about everything: the violation, the family betrayal, the fear I felt that night Jake showed up. She's been helping me process it all. And I did something for myself last weekend. I bought a new bottle of wine, the same vintage Jake stole, and I opened it on my back porch while watching the sunset. After a longer period of time than I had anticipated, I have begun sleeping through the night again. I sat in my hot tub in my house, recovering my space one evening at a time. A few days ago, Tom came over with a casserole. "Thought you might use some home cooking," he began, looking a little uncomfortable. "My wife cooked it. She's been concerned about you." I invited him in for coffee, and we talked for over an hour. He told me stories about the area, about the family who had lived in my townhouse before me. He made me laugh for the first time in weeks. "You handled all this precisely properly," he remarked before he left. "A lot of people would have erupted, gotten hysterical, done something they'd regret. You maintained your composure. In addition to documenting everything, you allowed the system to carry out its duties. It takes courage to do that. I didn't feel strong when I was crying on my dirty bed. And I didn't feel strong when I was shaking behind my bedroom door while Jake screamed threats at my front door. But maybe strength isn't about not feeling those things. Maybe it's about what you do in spite of feeling them. I'm not sure what the future holds for my family. The part of me that has spent years being told to keep the peace and be the bigger person while Emily faced zero consequences is aware that this may never happen. And I am learning to be okay with that. On the other hand, there is a part of me that does hope that time will bring perspective, that my mother will eventually see this situation for what it was. No one has the right to violate that, no matter what blood we might share or what stories they tell themselves to justify their actions. Family isn't just about genetics or legal connections. Family is about respect, trust, and the willingness to treat each other with basic human dignity. This townhouse is my home because I earned it through years of hard work and discipline. To anyone in a similar situation, I encourage you, document everything. Trust your instincts when something feels wrong. Do not let anyone, especially family, guilt you into accepting treatment that you would not tolerate from a stranger. And find your own Tom. Emily stopped being my family a long time ago, according to that definition. I just didn't realize it until she made it impossible for me to ignore it. This is my home, and now, finally, it feels like mine again. For those who suggested I should have just talked to her before going nuclear, I spent 17 years talking. During those 17 years, I was told to compromise, to understand, and to be the bigger person. Talking does not work with people who do not want to hear you. Sometimes the only language that gets through is consequences. This was my consequence, and I do not regret it for a single moment.